have had the complete honor of interviewing one of my favorite groups, AFK. I've known them for so long. Brandon, TK, and Danny. Just the experience in itself, interviewing Brandon from AFK, the rapper, prolific dude, making big moves. I'm so excited to feature this interview, Newtown Radio. Thank you so much for putting BB leaders in your segments, for this awesome opportunity and this awesome event. 50th anniversary of hip hop. I'm so excited. AFK, here we go, man. You are Brandon from AFK. How, like, describe your band, like, describe the group AFK and, like, your journey within the past, like, 4 years, I think, right?
Yeah, 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, we're AFK. We try to make the music that we feel is not being made. We're trying to make hip hop that sounds like it's from the future. We all love video games, we all love movies and comic books and all sorts of crazy imaginative media like that. So we try to infuse elements of that into what we do. And yeah, it's been a wild ride so far. Just three childhood friends trying to make it happen, you know?
That's crazy. Like, thinking about just you guys are from, like, New Paltz, right?
Close. Similar area.
Like, in
Newburgh,
the
New
Newburgh?
Windsor, that Hudson Valley kind of area.
Copy. Yeah, nah, sorry if I'm, like, off,
Oh,
like,
no
outside the
worries.
geographic.
Nobody knows those towns
Um,
anyway.
I mean, we're 845-ish, so it's like we gotta represent the gang, but I'm not representing.
It's all good. It's all good.
But yeah, like, I also wanted to talk about just like you guys and your performances. Like, how has that been, like, come the turn of the year?
How have they changed over the years, or like?
Well, no, I would say more so like how's the vibe been? Like, how have they changed?
When we were first starting out, we didn't even have a drummer. It was just me and TK, and we thought that was just how we were gonna do it. And the show, it was, we only ever did one show like that, and it was a pretty good show. But eventually our homie was like, "Yo, you should add a drummer. I feel like that's what you guys are missing." And we were like, "Oh." He was a drummer, so he started playing with us, and that was really really cool. And then eventually we picked up Dan, who he's a childhood friend of ours, and amazing drummer. He's only gotten better over the years. He's so good, and he ended up being a second drummer. So we had two drummers at one point when we were doing the shows in college at a Purchase College, which were amazing. Like, I'll never forget that time. You know, the pandemic hit, life changes, and we ended up losing one of our drummers, Liam. We're still great friends, but he lives in Vermont now. So now we're moving forward. It's me, TK, and Dan, and the shows have been amazing. I mean, we moved out here to the city 2 or so years ago, and really no foot in the scene besides people we know from Purchase. And yeah, it's been working out. The show we recently did in New Paltz, those guys in New Paltz always throw us great shows. But they show a lot of love out there, which is dope. It's cool to have like some hometown love. 845ers, you know. Yeah, I think with live shows, it's really interesting with us because people hear that we're like a rap group, but then they find out like, oh, like they have a drummer. They're kind of set up like a band, but it's not like a traditional band where people play instruments per se besides the drums. So I think I find it to be a really unique experience. If I was someone outward looking in, I wouldn't know what to think at first, and then once we get started, it all kind of clicks into place. Yeah, definitely. Like, I remember you guys being featured on Anthony Fantano, and that was a while ago. And I think a lot of people kind of was like, "Oh, this sound is like, all right, like I totally like can vibe with it." But I'm thinking also the music that he covers too, like he covers pretty much everything. You guys have like reached such a wide span of fans, like all over pretty much. Like, you guys are on the 2K Yeah.
album. How does that feel?
Yeah, that is still surreal to me because even like at the time when we first got hit up, this was like a year ago by now that they hit us up to be in it. It just didn't feel real. It's the same thing with the Fantano things. Like when these big things just happen out of nowhere, especially when you've been working so hard at something for so long with like very small returns, you know. Not that it's all about returns, you know. We're passionate about this shit. We'd be doing it whether if it was 2 or 2,000 people hearing it. But having that kind of thing happen it's definitely validating. Um, someone out there is liking your stuff enough to want to put it out there and put more people onto it. So that was really amazing. They're fully adding us to the soundtrack on the 7th. So that by the time people hear this, we'll be officially like fully in the game, which is unbelievable to me.
It's crazy. I do want to also ask 50th anniversary of hip hop. I didn't even know that it was like the 50th anniversary of hip hop, but what does that mean like to you, to your like just to your soul?
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible that it's been around this long. And my dad grew up in the South Bronx during like the inception of hip hop, and he has tons of stories about that time that he shared with me. And when I was growing up, he put me on to a lot of old school artists, KRS-One and Biz Markie and all guys from that real like first wave of what we know now as rappers. It's just incredible to see how much it's changed to where like we actually have a song where I interpolate a KRS-One phrase, and it's just wild to me that that song that we made that is so vastly different from what hip hop sounded like back then. The fact that they're considered, or that they are under the same umbrella, the paths that those people walked back then to legitimize hip hop as an art form, as its own style of music, when people were saying, no, that's just noise, that's just people being, I don't know, rambunctious and making trouble.
With that being said, like what has the evolution like how because it's just so branched off now. Like you can look up hip hop and it really doesn't even show you like the like it'll just be like the definition. It won't be like all of the subgenres on like you have to really like do a deep dive. So how has that deep dive like in your own work in terms of deep diving and sampling, how do you think that influences like the majority of your work?
I think it's amazing, and a lot of our songs contain tons of samples, but you just wouldn't even be able to tell because we warp and mask them so well. But I think it's awesome that we can include elements of things that we love in the music that we create, whether it be like a little sound effect or some type of theme or a jingle or something we hear in a game or a movie. Or it's cool to be able to pull things out of these different forms of media that we enjoy and bring it into our own. It's a beautiful thing it's been a part of hip hop forever. And I'm also glad that the general public has come around to sampling as an art form, because it is an art form. For a lot
Yeah.
of people thought it was just like stealing.
Oh, no. I mean, if you think about quote unquote stealing, like Wu-Tang is like one of the biggest like thieves when it comes down to just stealing, quote unquote. And then there's Jay Dilla who just does like a lot of different like it's a lot of just record collecting. Like you just think of like these giant producers, Madlib, Jay Dilla, MF, and some of them have passed. It's like these giant legends are like, oh man, like I really do wish that you were still around. But then you think of like hip hop and rap, like throughout the years, like Slick Rick, you think of Ice Cube, even like NWA. I don't know, you just look down the path, but then you look at people like JPEG Mafia and his latest album, Scaring the Hose, which is crazy to me. Like I listened to that album a good 3 times over at the same time. What was your impression of that album when you first heard it?
That album like totally reignited my love for JPEG Mafia. Like, not that I didn't love him, like I've always been a huge fan. He's one of my greatest influences as a rapper, artist, even person. But like that album, I feel like, because his whole process, he stripped it down to this very bare bones method where he's using the 404, and he's using, it's like heavily sample based, these songs, and using these old methods create something that feels incredibly new, pushes the boundaries, It sounds nothing like anything you've heard before, and I just find that incredibly inspiring.
Yeah, I think of whenever I think of that album, I think of the last track, and I think of I'm gonna come back to Wu Tang again because like my favorite Wu Tang song is sampled in that. Like that giant entrance comes in after like the prelude. He just uses that as like his repeat and repeat, which they do the same, you know? So like it's just crazy how like all those influences are kind of glued together. Especially with JPEG because he uses pretty much anything.
Yeah,
Um so like you guys have him as like one of your biggest influences because like he's so eclectic and just so wide based. And I think yeah, like he is one of my biggest inspirations too. Like seeing him live is like an experience like no other. But I feel like that's with any artist, you know what I'm saying? With JPEG in particular, like he's just so extroverted. He's so outside of the box, and I know you guys are too, and it's super influential. Like I've been a fan of you guys since the beginning, and I am so glad that I'm interviewing you guys right now. You think about it, and it seems like in a blink of time, but there's so much work that was put into it. So like, to give me like a little bit of the behind the scenes, if you can, like just like the amount of work and like the creative process that comes into even one song, you know?
yeah. It's so interesting describing our process as AFK because it's such a long form thing, I feel like. Because there's three of us. We have one computer that we primarily make beats on. Someone's always cooking on there, you know. Yeah, we do everything ourselves, you know. So from artwork to video to our website design to shipping merch and all that stuff, like everything is handled by us. So yeah, it's always a long game, especially if we're dropping a project. But for a song, I get like spurts of inspiration, you know. I'm not like one of these guys that can go into the studio and bang out 8, 9 songs in a night, you know. I wish I was. I envy those people. But for me, I need to really sit down and chip away at a verse, even if it's super like, even if I'm not saying anything like crazy or profound, you know, just for my personal tastes, like I'm trying to have it be as on point as I can. Sometimes it'll take me like weeks and even months to write a verse, you know. Yeah, I just find inspiration in different ways, like walking around, going about my daily life. I have my notes app is a Bible. Like I have so many little cool phrases I hear or little rhymes I think of written down, and I repurpose a lot of things. Like if we make a song that doesn't pan out, I'll take a couple lines from there, throw it in something new, you know. I don't want to say it like this because it makes it sound makes it sound weird, but we're like just kind of throwing anything at the wall to see what sticks, you know. And it's worked out so far. I think in the future I want to definitely get more high concept with things and really, really, really plan things out. But for now, we're just, you know, we're having fun with it, and whatever arises from that arises. Like with our last album, the theme of it just sort of came through as we kept making songs. You know, we didn't have a set topic or anything going in, but as the songs were being made, you know, I was in a certain mindset. The songs were made in a small kind of window, so I had the same outlook, the same feelings. And yeah, once we have a collection of songs, we start planning out, you know, what how does this speak to us visually, aesthetically, you know, how do we make people understand this world that we're trying to build with it, you know? And I think with Specimen, that was the best we've ever done it, where there's clear imagery, you know. You could see an image that we post and you'll realize like, oh, that is a specimen related thing, you know. But that's a little peek into our process. We don't really know what we're doing either. So
I don't think many people do. I think when people kind of just go on either their computer or just really start off, it's just like a jam sesh. And then it's like just building the pieces together. And I think that's historically speaking, you know, like I don't think I can speak for everyone, you know, but like I'm not sure if I told you, but I have an uncle who used to rap, and he's actually pretty prolific in the game. Um, and I think about him and his legacy because he was shot and killed, unfortunately.
oh,
And yeah, You probably recognize his name. His name is Big L. Um,
Whoa.
yeah, he's my
That's
mom's half brother.
what? That's
Yeah.
fucking insane. I don't know if I could curse on here, but that is
No, I'll block
insane.
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I never knew that. That is unbelievable.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't tell too many people, but I think when people like when I tell someone, they're like, "What the what? Like, are you dead ass?" Like,
If you know, you know with Big L. He pushed the boundaries back then for sure. And he was gone way too soon. Way too soon.
yeah, dude, 24. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But like when you think about just like the history of hip hop, you think about the politics of hip hop as well. But then also it's like some of that dissipated, some of that turned into other things. But I don't think that is the point, you know? Like some people kind of try to uh hyper fetishize or whatever you'd call like the hip hop game or like just talk like um sex, drugs, bitches, you know? And it'll more so be like on that spectrum, but like a lot of people are like people who are like in the music game, like you said, like if you know, you know, and then you just deep dive. But when it comes down, you know what, actually I want to ask some of your influences. You want to like drop some names?
Yeah, yeah. Mention JPEG, huge influence. Uh Death Grips, huge influence. Beastie Boys. More and more recently, I'm realizing how much Beastie Boys played a huge impact on the things that we do and things that I do at least. Um, Danny Brown, want to mention him because we talked about scaring the hose. Didn't mention Danny Brown. He's amazing, pushing the game in new experimental ways, however he can. Uses his voice super interestingly. He's amazing. Love like Arca on the production end. Arca is incredible. She kills it. Sophie as well. Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many. Nah, you ever hear the artist Nah? He's great. He's kind of a one man act. Plays drums, produces, sings slash raps slash screams. I don't know what you'd call it, but he's amazing. And then honestly, like a lot of my friends, like if I could shout out some of the homies, like ID Sus, he's an amazing artist and has been a great influence on me in recent years. And my homies over in Philly, Abasha and the Orca Boys, like all these people that you meet along the way. I think people are afraid to list their peers or their friends as influences because they don't want to seem like they're like biting. I couldn't care less about that. Like these are the people that I'm really inspired by, you know, the people that are doing it just like me and are making amazing stuff, you know, and they're not like super famous. So yeah, a lot of my peers, Jehovah's Princess, yeah, tons of them out there. But yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like shout out to the homies. Like I just love the DIY scene in general because and that's what I like gravitate towards the most. Like I've never really been much of a radio like listen to the same bit over and over and over again. I think when it comes down to it, like me personally, I want to just like document the DIY scene. Like I love documentary and stuff like that because it's just such a social and beautiful like experience. Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people miss out on just how social and like connected it is. Whereas when you span out a little bit more, it's like, oh man, like I feel like I'm more disconnected with my fans, or it's just music versus blah 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 versus all these different things that have now been separated and kind of like conglomerated into like different sub topics. Whereas like the social gathering of it all, especially when you're like in a garage or like in a basement, like that's where the excitement is. Like when you're so close to your fans and you can talk to like them each individually. Like how's that been for you too?
Yeah, I love all the different scenes we've been able to see, and all the people we've been able to meet. It's just amazing. There's no feeling like doing a show and knowing you killed it and then getting off and going around and talking to people who had a good time and enjoyed themselves, you know. I love that feeling, you know, knowing that I gave people an experience to remember, contributed to them having a solid night or a good weekend, or maybe they were having a bad day. They came out to the show and raged out and let some stuff out, you know. Like I love all that. I love being being a part of our own little community that we have. The Fantano thing really helped us reach a lot of people from around the world, which I'm grateful for. A good majority of our fans are people from all over the planet. So that's amazing. Like some of my closest music homies are people that don't even live in this country. So it's just like so awesome.
Yeah, yeah, dude. Um, that's really sick. I want to ask, like, so how's the experience now?
Yeah, I think it's dope. We're definitely right now the best we've ever been. We're well practiced. We rehearse like a couple times a week at this point, and it's awesome to have that show when we actually do perform. I had a greater point I was building to, but I totally just brain farted. But
It's all good.
yeah,
Uh,
the whole live show experience has been amazing so far, and I'm excited to keep going. We've got some stuff planned for the near future that I can't quite talk on just yet, but exciting stuff in the live realm that I think if you're in New York City, you definitely might want to pop out to.
what can you talk about?
Let's just say got a show potentially in the works with a really sick rapper who young dude who sick artist who's kind of pushing into a more experimental lane in recent years, and it's got me excited. But
Nice.
other than that, we're pretty open as of late. As far as booking goes, nothing super crazy. Just been in the lab, you know, working on that new.
Working on that chef, working on that sauce, working
Yeah, you
on.
already know. You already know.
All right. So any lasting comments that you think would best describe you, your journey and hip hop and like I don't know, anything lasting that you say about like the anniversary because it just seems so prolific at this point.
Yeah, yo, it's an honor to be a part of this no matter how small of a part we are, the story of hip hop, and contributing to the game how we can. And yeah, again, I grew up on a lot of the old school stuff. It's just cool to be able to use things that I learned from listening to that as well as things that I learned from listening to more recent artists. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful thing that now you can have hip hop snobs that argue over whether something is this particular subgenre or this particular subgenre of hip hop. I feel like that's a very rock and roll kind of thing. Like, oh, that's alt rock, not prog rock. Now I feel like we're having that within hip hop, and I think that's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's just gonna get bigger and more expansive, and it's the best genre we have, in my opinion. So
I think so too. I think
only
so
50
too.
years is insane.
I know, right? That's crazy. All right. Also, flaunt yourself on AFK for a couple secs.
Yeah. Well, we got if you play NBA 2K23, we're gonna be in the 2K Beats menu. If you check there, you can find our song and set it to your entrance theme and have it play in the menus and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. New music, videos always on the way. And yeah, we're just gonna keep cooking, always cooking.
Yeah, check out Specimen. It is such a good album, guys. Thank you so much for doing this interview, and thank you to Newtown Radio and
Yeah, shout out to Newtown Radio. This was dope.
awesome, awesome. Thank you so much.